Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio. That's AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA prime Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Again, UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner. 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935 for UppercutChops.com. Yes. All right, welcome in everybody listening in on radio, watching on television, everybody streaming as well. You know who you are. And, of course, a big welcome into our friends on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook as well. Thanks for joining us there. Going to get right into college football right at the very top of this program. And just a quick recap of what happened over the weekend in the last series of games, starting out with, of course, the Army Black Knights beating the Temple Owls 42-14. Going to the other games that played the next day, actually the Hokies and Hurricanes were delayed. And a big shocker, it was the Washington Huskies that are new to the Big Ten falling to the Scarlet Knights of Rutgers, probably one of the best names in college football. The Rutgers Scarlet Knights 21, the Washington Huskies 18. Welcome to the Big Ten, Washington. And it was Brigham Young besting the Baylor Bears 34-28. The Western Kentucky Hilltoppers come one point short of the Boston College Eagles, the Golden Eagles, and unfortunately a 21-20 loss for the Hilltoppers. And it was UConn. This is a very confusing school when it comes to sports as far as football goes. UConn runs it up on the Buffalo Bulls, not to be confused with the Buffalo Bills. But nonetheless, it was 47-3. Now, in my recollection, I don't recall Connecticut being good enough to beat a Division II school. But apparently their football program has made some kind of a turn because they're actually 3 wins against 2 losses now, which when you look at it, it's sort of a conundrum because you wouldn't imagine that those guys really are good enough to beat any real quality Division I teams. And now Buffalo historically has been a very good Division I team out of the Mid-American Conference. So it's very confusing, but, well, good for Connecticut, I suppose. And it was Indiana. How about the Indiana Hoosiers at 5-0? And, of course, it kind of pains me to say that being a Purdue grad, but I have to say that Indiana made the right hire in their head coach, and Purdue certainly did not make the right hire in theirs. Indiana now 5-0. Their latest win, they dropped 42 on Maryland at home, 42-28. Meanwhile, as I was just mentioning, Purdue loses at home 28-10 in a snore bowl at West Lafayette to, of course, Nebraska. It was the Kansas State Wildcats getting banged right back on track, 42-20 over the Cowboys of Oak State. Michigan struggles at home with the Golden Gophers, 27-24. Michigan, they moved to 4-1, a very dubious 4-1, by the way. NC State over Northern Illinois, who beat Notre Dame. It was NC State 24, Northern Illinois 17. The Kentucky Wildcats. Now, folks, watch these guys because I don't care what their record is. This is a very, very good Kentucky team. Now, remember, just a couple of weeks ago, they took Georgia all the way to the wire in a 13-12 loss That was the number 1 ranked team in the country. And it was Ole Miss as the number 5 ranked team in the country losing to Kentucky at home, 20-17. Now, Ole Miss with that big aerial attack, and it just seems like whoever has the ball last in the Ole Miss games win. But it was the stout defense of the Wildcats that showed up in this game against Ole Miss. I got to tell you, those guys are legit. It was the Syracuse Orange over Holy Cross 42-14. The Green Wave of Tulane 45-10 over the South Florida Bulls. No real surprise there. The Midshipmen of Navy 41-18 over the University of Alabama Birmingham Blazers. No surprise there. And it was the James Madison Dukes running it up on Mid-American Ball State 63-7. I mean, that one itself is a laugher. Sam Houston State with an upset over the Texas State Bobcats 40-39. Liberty was canceled with App State. Boy, that's a great game. I can't wait to see that game when they play it. And it was Auburn losing at home. Come on, War Eagle, what are you doing? Oklahoma, the Paperclips come into town, and they snip Auburn 27-21. It was a shocker. The Central Michigan Chippewas out of the Mid-American Conference beating the Mountain West on their way to the Pac-12, which is really the Pac-7 now. It was Central Michigan 22, San Diego State 21. There's a big shocker right there. Georgia Southern over Georgia State 38-21. The Horned Frogs of TCU in a very easy win over Kansas. Boy, Kansas is slipping back to what we knew before, 38-27. And it was Eastern Michigan, the Eagles, over the Kent State Golden Flashes, 52-33. Marshall, the Thundering Herd of Marshall over Western Michigan in a Mid-American Conference clash, 27-20. The Miami Redhawks, 23. The UMass Minutemen, 20. You know, it looks like the Mid-American Conference has some pretty good squads here. And it was Notre Dame, 31, Louisville, 24 at South Bend. The Bobcats of Ohio, 30, and the Zips of Akron, 10. The Zips, I really believe I say this all the time. They should really consider changing the name maybe to something else, because Zip reminds me of zero as in 0 wins, yet they do have 1 win so far this year. And it was the Texas A&M Aggies, 21 over the Arkansas Razorbacks, 17 in College Station. The Buffaloes double up +1 over the UCF Knights. That would be Central Florida, 48-21. UNLV minus their quarterback that decided, I don't want to play with you guys anymore. That guy left after 3-0 over an NIL deal. Of course, that always deserves a chorus of boos, but it was UNLV 59 embarrassing Fresno State, who is the class of the Mountain West, on their way, of course, to the Pac-7. Then it was USC 38-21 over Bucky and the Badgers at the Coliseum in Los Angeles. The Ragin' Cajuns 41, Wake Forest Demon Deacons 38 in a wild shootout. It was the Blue Devils of Duke 21 over the North Carolina Tar Heels. I had to have a little bit of suspense with that. East Carolina 30, UT San Antonio 20, 2-3 and 3-2 in those two. Texas holds on to the number 1 slot, beating Mississippi State in a typical defensive game, as you would expect with Mississippi State. Defensive game, 35-13. Old Dominion shocks Bowling Green, the Falcons, 30-27. Next, it was Florida International, 17. Louisiana Tech, 10. The Florida Atlantic Owls over Wagner, 41-10. UT Martin, 24. Kennesaw State, 13. Clemson, 40. Stanford, 14. Iowa State, 20. The Houston Cougars, boy, they've fallen on hard times, 0. They have dropped now to 1-4. Tulsa drops to 2-3 with a loss to the Mean Green of North Texas, 52-20. And it was Charlotte 21, Rice 20, Louisiana Monroe 13, the Men of Troy 9. Georgia, in a shocker, loses at Alabama in Tuscaloosa 41-34. You got to ask yourself, is Kirby Smart going to win a national title this year? Probably not. And then it was Memphis 24, Middle Tennessee 7, Ohio State 38, Michigan State 7. Penn State 21, Illinois 7, LSU 42, South Alabama 10, New Mexico Lobos 50, New Mexico State 40, SMU 42, Florida State 16, Red Raiders of Texas Tech 44 over Cincinnati in a shootout 41, and it was the Air Force Academy losing in Wyoming 31-19. Boise State 45, Washington State 24. Arizona, a very good Arizona team, wins on the road over in Utah 23-10, and it was Oregon beating up on UCLA. UCLA, boy, you don't even know what to think about those guys. This is, mind you, it was a Pac-12 clash a year ago. Now it's a Big Ten clash. Oregon, UCLA, USC, and Washington, all in the Big Ten now. This is very, very confusing. It's very strange when you see a matchup that you would see in the Rose Bowl. For example, USC and Wisconsin. I remember that Rose Bowl matchup not too terribly long ago. But now you see them in the same conference. It's very confusing. And I have to say, when you look at these games and you look at these scores, you wonder how much money was involved in the decision of these. Oh, we can't really say now, can we? But what we can do is go over the rankings in the next segment here on the Sports Circus. Folks, don't go anywhere. Lots more to come. And we're going to get to Tom Brady and his comments about who he could have signed with back in 2020. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come here on the Circus.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935. Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes, are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio. That's AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's csncoyotes.com for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. And a big welcome in to everybody listening in on any and all of our affiliates and independent stations, including our friends over in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the New York Yankees, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Welcome in everybody else up and down the West Coast on all of our independents, up and down the East Coast as well, through the heartland of America. Big hello to our friends over in Auburn, Alabama, WAUD. That's the Atlanta Braves Radio Network, 1230 on the AM dial. Big hello to our friends also over in Atlanta, WDJY 99.1 FM. Also, hello to our friends watching on all streaming media, including on Facebook, Chicago Food Favorites. Folks, make sure you check that out, Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Of course, everybody also on television. If you're watching on Hotel TV or pick your favorite streaming platform, thanks again for joining us. All right. Now, leaving off with the college football discussion, we have the rankings to go through, and let's take a quick look at who was receiving votes and who wasn't receiving votes and who dropped and who didn't drop first. Now, receiving votes, we always start there, and honestly, the University of Arizona is a hell of a lot better than just receiving votes. That's what I think. Anyway, receiving votes, they got 106 votes. Pittsburgh got 42. Nebraska somehow gets 30 votes. Boston College is in there. Iowa, a decent Iowa team, gets some votes. James Madison, the Dukes, we're going to give James Madison a little round of applause. They did get 13 votes. South Carolina, Oak State, Rutgers, Navy, Kentucky gets 6. That's a very good Kentucky. Even though they're 1 and 2, they still got some votes for being ranked. And, of course, SMU, Army, and Colorado. Now, that was all for the AP Top 25. But the coaches, it's a little bit different. They have Boise State getting 103. And if you look on the other side of the ledger in the AP, they're not even in that list because Boise State is actually ranked 21st. But as far as the coaches see it, they're not even good enough to be ranked. The coaches also have Pittsburgh, Arizona, Rutgers, Iowa. James Madison got a fair amount of votes as well. Duke got some votes, which is kind of nice. They get 22 votes, ahead of Kentucky, who gets 17 with 2 losses, only 1 win. Oak State, SMU, Nebraska, Navy, Colorado, BC, Army, UCF, Liberty, South Carolina, and Tulane all getting votes. Now, going to the AP Top 25, we're going to compare these back and forth. So the first one will be the AP Top 25. Ranked number 25 is UNLV. Yes, the unbeaten UNLV Rebels. And we'll give them just a very quick round of applause, just because we can. That is as far as the AP. Now, the coaches say that Illinois is the 25th team in the nation. In fact, they dropped 4 slots down to number 25. And, of course, in the AP Top 25, it's Illinois at number 24. And the coaches have Indiana at number 24, jumping up into the rankings. And, of course, in the AP Top 25, Indiana's ranked number 23, UNLV, and the coaches is ranked 23. The coaches have Louisville ranked 22, while the AP also has Louisville at 22. Boise State, as I mentioned before, in the AP Top 25 is number 21, and they're unranked in the coaches poll. Kansas State is number 20 in both polls. Oklahoma is 19th in the AP. BYU is number 19 in the coaches poll. Utah drops 8 in the AP Top 25 to number 18, and they're number 18 also dropping 8 in the coaches poll. So there's a little consistency. BYU in the top 25, AP Top 25, is number 17, and they are undefeated. Number 17 on the other side over in the coaches poll is Oklahoma. Number 16 in the AP Top 25 is Iowa State, the undefeated Cyclones, and they're also the same in the coaches. In the AP, number 15 is Clemson at 3-1, up 2 slots. And over at number 15 is the University of Southern California, up 1 slot. Now, the coaches have Clemson and USC flip-flopped here because they've got Clemson at number 14, and over 14 in the AP is Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame is number 13 in the coaches, while the AP's got LSU as number 13. Ole Miss dropped 6 slots after that loss to Kentucky, down to number 12 in the AP, and they are number 11 in the coaches. Number 11 in the AP is USC, going up a couple of slots, but they're number 15 of the coaches. But Michigan, a very dubious Michigan club, in the AP is number 10, and also in the coaches. I don't even know how they're number 10, but they went up 2 slots. Missouri, a very good Missouri squad, an undefeated Missouri squad, goes up 2 slots to number 9 in both polls. And also, Miami drops 1 in the AP to number 8, and they go up 1 in the coaches to number 8. So they're both at number 8. Penn State is in both polls at number 7, going up 2 in the AP, 1 of the coaches. Oregon occupies number 6 in both polls. Georgia is number 5 in both polls. Tennessee is number 4 in both polls. Ohio State number 3 in both. Texas is number 2 in the AP, while Alabama is number 2. But Alabama is number 1 in the AP, while the coaches say Texas is the number 1 team in the nation. So there's a little bit of a difference here. When you look at these, you say, why is it so different? Well, look, the coaches are in the middle of it. It's basically the coaches versus the writers. And that's what you really have to consider with all of these, the differences in this and that. And look, you can't really, I guess you can bet on the polls before they come out. I'm sure there's some sports betting forum for this, but sports betting is kind of wrecking a lot of things, in my opinion. Really wrecking a lot of things. In fact, sports betting has left announcers watching games just completely befuddled. And even in the Cleveland Browns and Vegas Raiders game, there was a conundrum. And this was a pass that was caught by Amari Cooper. But wait a minute. What happened? I don't really know what happened. But what we do have is we have a soundbite. And let's see if we can hear the soundbite. This is courtesy of the Mad Minute on the Browns and Raiders game. Let's see if we got something here for you.
Browns, they're headed to Las Vegas. Antonio Pierce said he had to make some business decisions. We're remaining to see what happens there. Manti, go.
Well, I'm interested to see what those business decisions are. Like, who's going to be the quarterback? Who are you going to put in there? Like, are you if you put Minshew in there, how long are you going to keep him in there if he doesn't start doing well? So I'm interested to see what business decisions those are for the Raiders going against the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm interested to see that, too. We were told big change is coming. I'm also fascinated by the Browns.
Yeah.
As one of these teams after 3 weeks, I just don't know what the hell they are. The Deshaun Watson thing is always interesting. I don't know what he is. I remember starting, and we spent all of August being like, wow, the Browns are really good. I just don't know what I'm getting for Watson. I've seen 3 games of him. I still don't know what I'm getting. And if I had to choose, it's not anything good. So, bizarre game between 2 1-2ers, Peter. I don't know who to pick here.
Yeah, and it seems like the organization and the coaching staff and the front office is 10 toes down on going with Deshaun and just like steady. We got Deshaun Watson. Look, they could have turned to Flacco. We know that's not the long-term answer.
Right.
They also have Jameis Winston, who has played a lot of football in this league. And if things go off and they start off slowly for Cleveland, does Stefanski have the courage and does he have the freedom to do that and say, you know what, let's mix it up and let's go to Winston? Because I think there are some Browns fans who are clamoring for some Jameis.
He's right about that, but let's go to that call first. Now, this is courtesy of X and CBS and the National Football League.
Right side of your screen, Harris is right there. Again, it's when Watson steps up. Harris needs to try to keep moving his feet. Oh, I don't like that call at all.
Yeah, he
we
didn't
need
really
to get
grab
another
him.
angle of that. They called that a hold?
Wilkins was the defender there.
Yeah, we're going to check out the reverse angle. I cannot believe they called that a hold right there on Nick Harris. Watch 53. You're allowed to grab like that. His hands are inside the framework.
He's in great
of
position,
Watson's
right?
body. That's where you want to be. Everything he's doing right there is good. Let's see the very end of it. Right. Oh.
That was ridiculous. And so I started off saying about these bad calls and so forth. I mean, this is really embarrassing. So Sports Illustrated had come out with a announcement. Actually, they had said announcers flummoxed by penalty that erased the Browns' touchdown in a loss to the Raiders. I don't blame them. I mean, the call was ridiculous. I mean, for a moment, it appeared like the Browns actually had taken a fourth quarter lead over the Raiders at Allegiant Stadium with 11 minutes to play, and Cleveland trailing by 4. The Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson found receiver Amari Cooper wide open near the Raiders logo at midfield, and Cooper took it to the house for what appeared to be a 22-20 lead. But no, there's always something. There were flags on the field. That's ridiculous. You know why? I don't know why. But it sure seems like money may have something to do with it. Anyway, the officials nullified the touchdown due to an offensive hold, which is what you heard the narrative about with those announcers. And frankly, I don't blame them. I was the same thing. I saw that. I'm like, what in the world's going on here? And of course, CBS Sports analyst Ross Tucker couldn't believe the call either. And remember, he had even said, I don't like that at all. They call that a hold? Exactly. I felt the same way. It was so embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for the NFL. They're letting these nonsensical calls happen. And oh, by the way, it was the Raiders ending up winning the game, covering the spread, of course. And it just seems like money is involved with every step of this. But bigger problems for the Cleveland Browns. We're going to talk about Kevin Stefanski in the next segment. That's where to come. Don't go anywhere. Right here on the Sports Circus. Back in a few. I'm your Ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello, Americans. It's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time, that's 800-950-2049.
The old way of living with diabetes is a pain. You've got to remember to do your testing and always need to stick your fingers to test your blood sugar. The new way to live your life with diabetes is with a continuous glucose monitor. Apply a discrete sensor on your body, and it continuously monitors your glucose levels, helping you spend more time in range and freeing you from painful finger sticks. If you are living with type 1 or type 2 diabetes and you use insulin or have had hypoglycemic events, you might be eligible for a CGM through your insurance benefits. U.S. Med partners with over 500 private insurance companies and Medicare. We offer free shipping, 90-day supplies, and we bill your insurance. Call us today for a free benefits check.
800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. That's 800-659-7805.
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting. Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you by the Sports Circus. Make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, or recorded shows, which are our podcasts. No, we don't do a podcast. We just happen to have our show on those platforms like Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, iHeart, etc., etc. You can't get away from us, folks. We're everywhere. Also, make sure you check out the partners page. Lots of great partners over there. We're going to get to some of those in the next segment. But anyway, lots of great guests coming up here on the program. Not going to spill the beans. We're going to probably have a press release come out for some of them. And wait till you see what's coming up, folks. Lots of good stuff here on the circus. Yes! All right. Left off talking about Kevin Stefanski, basically trying to figure out what the hell this guy should do. What kind of decision should he make? Should he bench Deshaun Watson in favor of maybe Jameis Winston or somebody else? Not really sure. I like Jameis Winston, and he's very exciting. Yes, he does throw a lot of interceptions, but he also throws a lot of touchdowns, and the guy is seasoned. I mean, the guy is good. He doesn't necessarily bring the baggage that Deshaun Watson has brought from Houston. Of course, pun intended, if you know what I mean. Anyway, I mean, look, if it becomes time to make a change, the bigger question is Kevin going to trust the decision no matter what? It's a gut decision at this point, and who knows what's going to happen. But according to Sports Illustrated, coaches and NFL team higher-ups often, despite hypotheticals and assumptions from outside the facility, never mind hypotheticals, wrapped in assumptions. Say that 5 times fast. It takes them out of a schedule in which every second is accounted for and necessary to perform a task that requires, of course, as Jerry Jones might say, nat surgery focus. Be that as it may, the Cleveland Browns are in a quarterback conundrum that looks to be approaching a decision point. And Deshaun Watson, of course, as colleague Matt Verderam outlined in a recent film breakdown, is increasingly hesitant to respond to openings provided via the offense. And of course, he's taken an astronomical number of sacks, 16, more than any other quarterback in the NFL heading into week 4, and his ability to extend plays has been showcased inconsistently. So benching Watson is an idea that would have seemed unfathomable a few years ago when the team signed him to what was one of the most expensive contracts in NFL history, and of course remains the most binding one because it was guaranteed money. And of course, it felt more possible after Joe Flacco led the club on a miraculous run to the postseason last season. And of course, benching him for a new backup, Jameis Winston, may now be the only avenue to a second consecutive playoff appearance for the Browns. Of course, I'm in favor of it, but then again, it's just me and I don't have any dog in the fight there. Of course, the dog pound does. It's being discussed with some degree of regularity now, though a recent report from The Athletic noted that there was no way the team would do it in any time soon. I don't believe that whatsoever. Now, of course, choosing not to re-sign Joe Flacco, in my opinion, was a horrific mistake. And of course, I mean, come on, look what's going on over in Indianapolis. This guy just picks it up and he just keeps on trucking. That's exactly what's going on. Of course, given the layers involved in this type of decision, here comes the sandwich of both hypothetical and outside assumption together. If Kevin Stefanski were ever to make a move towards benching Watson, he would need to clear that with a not insignificant number of people who are shackled to the enormity of that contract. And see, this is where they've got it wrong, folks. I don't give a damn how much money they give this guy. The reality is, if you're not performing, you don't play. It's the next man up mentality, and that may cost Kevin Stefanski his job because he's chained to that $250 million contract. I think it was $250 or $240, whatever, to that big guaranteed contract for Deshaun Watson. And his hands are tied. There's very little he could do. And baseball managers have the same problem on a regular basis. And general managers have this issue. And I think, just in baseball for a moment, I believe that Perry Manassian has his hands tied because Artie Moreno won't let him do what he needs to do for the Angels to allow those guys to play to their capabilities because there are contracts involved. And in this case, Kevin Stefanski is probably walking up and down the sidelines with his hands tied, wanting to put Jameis Winston in, but I don't think he can because I don't think Jimmy Haslam says, hey, look, you have the right to go ahead and bench this guy even though I'm paying him $200+ million. And I think that is the big issue here. So as you look around the NFL, teams that are vibrant and successful are coached by mostly younger offensive minds with the skills to retrofit an explosive scheme to almost any quarterback. And Stefanski is one of a smaller number of coaches, such as Matt LaFleur, Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel, Sean McVay, Kevin O'Donnell, Andy Reid, and of course others who possess this ability and have showcased it with different passers. Now, in Stefanski's case, he has gotten great performance out of Baker Mayfield. And where's Baker? He's starting for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jacoby Brissett, not playing with this team anymore. I think he's playing over in, that's right, New England. What about Joe Flacco? Yeah, we just mentioned him. He's starting over in Indianapolis. So what are we talking about here? Is it the general management of the Cleveland Browns that's making mistakes? Because it sure as hell isn't Kevin Stefanski. Is it the upper management that is the problem? I believe that's the problem. This is the ongoing issue. It's the power struggle with money. So what's the worst that could happen to Stefanski? Well, I think he can get fired, but Sports Illustrated says, how big a slap on the wrist would he receive from his bosses for making his own decision about to whom to play the quarterback position? If the Browns dismissed him, he would be one of the first coaches hired the following January when the coaching carousel heats up, of course. And if they wanted something for him, Stefanski's trade value would presumably be quite high. And as an added bonus, he would be shielded from the fallout of a possibly difficult back end of Watson's contract, and maybe the team could recoup some of the draft picks to ease that pain. Now, these are, of course, massive hypotheticals, but admittingly, I don't know if we're in this world or ever would be in this kind of discussion. But in thinking of the economics of the NFL, a superstar head coach is worth more and costs a fraction of a struggling franchise quarterback with off-field issues. So, Stefanski has to know this, or, if not, should realize that if he arrives at the decision that Watson should no longer play, he should follow that instinct without fear that benching Watson would put him in a worse situation than he's currently in. So few people like confrontation, but the reality of most workplaces is that there are folks who can afford to be confrontational and shake it up. And of course, the status quo and the worse and those that actually cannot. So there are certain embattled coaches in the NFL right now whom, of course, I guess, are afraid to ask for a new Keurig flavor for their coffee machine in their lounge. Never mind the benching of the team's highest paid player. And Stefanski is not one of those coaches. But he would not be the first coach with enough clout to send a highly paid quarterback to the bench. Sean Payton moved on from Russell Wilson in that manner. Doug Peterson eventually did the same with Carson Wentz. The Giants dismissing Ben McAdoo for his inability to properly sell the phasing out of Eli Manning eventually allowed Pat Shurmur to spearhead the process. And of course, a Watson turnaround in concert with the NFL, not finding the latest lawsuit filed against him suspicion-worthy, would make this hypothetical moot. But Watson, being unavailable via suspension or continuing to struggle would only serve to strengthen Stefanski's quarterback bona fides, as well as his ability to steer a team through a very complex situation, and it would only strengthen the idea that Stefanski and the Cleveland Browns need him more than just about anyone else in the organization right now, and unintentionally, it would probably make Stefanski more attractive to teams that could use both a fixer and a schematic expert. Now that's kind of an interesting point of view. Keep in mind, the Browns visit Las Vegas on Sunday, and of course, which blew up because of why? That was that phantom holding call. So was that a play against the Cleveland Browns? Was that a play with money? Was that a play for the Raiders after conveniently losing to the hapless Carolina Panthers? I got to tell you, it's probably a blend of all that. Put all those ingredients in the juicer, and you come out with one awful tasting, expensive smoothie. That's right, because I believe money plays a role in all of this eventually, and I'm talking about money from payoffs. Yes, I said it. I believe there are payoffs. It's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. We see the Kansas City Chiefs week in and week out get call after call after call after call. Patrick Mahomes, since 2017 or 2018, I think it is, has had 17 touchdown, or better yet, interceptions called back, which leads the National Football League. So you try to tell me money that's not involved? I think it is. And just remember, show me the money is usually a part of this. Back here in a few minutes on The Circus. Lots more to come.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi Code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
Call 800-335-7196. 800-335-7196. That's 800-335-7196.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Hey, everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio. That's AAMP Television. Folks, make sure you check out the sportscircus.com and all of our partners as well. That is on the partners page. Lots of great partners over there. One of our favorites is the California Sportswear Company, and that's Cali Strong. Check them out at CALI-strong.com for all your outdoor wear, all your active wear, your hats, your hoodies, your t-shirts, your shoes, all kinds of great stuff. I got to tell you, folks, I have even the socks. The socks are amazing. I probably have a full wardrobe of Cali Strong gear only because I really dig it. Now, we don't get paid anything for saying this. We're just saying it because we like it. Check them out at CaliStrong.com. That's CALI-strong.com with a flagship store in downtown San Diego over across from Seaport Village. That's Cali Strong, CALI-strong.com. Yes! All right, welcome back to everybody. TV, radio, streaming. All right, carrying on with the NFL, we had these NFL games. We're going to run over these real quick. These scores were, some of them were interesting, and I do bring up, for example, first right off the bat, it was the Cowboys and the New York Giants. The Cowboys 20, the Giants 15. And what's interesting about this is the line was 4.5. The latest line at that time was 4.5. Dallas covers. They win by 5. But what's interesting about it is the way that the Giants actually somehow got to 15. That's the part that really threw me for a loop. And it was convenient, of course, that Dallas beat the spread by the hook, which is that half a point. And they had 80,425 people there, quite a few people over in East Rutherford, New Jersey, to see the New Jersey Giants, really, not the New York Giants. Nonetheless, it was the Colts 27, the Steelers 24. At Indianapolis, there were 66,000 and change there. Minnesota over Green Bay at Lambeau, 31-29, 78,000 there. I'll tell you why we're talking about the attendance in a moment. Houston 24 over Jacksonville 20. That was down at Energy Stadium in Houston. They had 71,000. Atlanta hosted the Saints, and they won by 26-24 over the New Orleans Saints in front of 72,204. It was the Bears. Yes! It was the Bears 24, the Rams 18 in Chicago in front of 59,074. Smallest crowd in the entire week in the NFL. The Buccaneers hosted the Eagles, and they doubled them up 33-16 in front of 64,223. The Bengals on the road, 34, Panthers 24 over in Charlotte in front of 77,000. Denver goes in and plays the Jets, and they beat the Jets 10-9 in front of 82,243. Washington, that was a driving rainstorm, by the way, 42 Washington, Arizona 14 in front of 63,000 and change there in the Dome. New England falls to San Francisco 30-13 in front of 71,000. The Raiders, which we mentioned, were basically given a gift by the referees, 20-16 over the Cleveland Browns in front of 62,401. The Chiefs, yes, with a whole bunch of convenient calls for the Kansas City Chiefs and the Fighting Mahomeses, 17-10 at SoFi Stadium against the Chargers. And it was the Ravens 35, the Bills 10 in front of 70,000 over in Baltimore. Why are we talking about this? Because we think about the money that's involved. I mentioned money in the last segment, so let's take a quick look at how the revenues are shared. Now, some of the information needs a little bit of updating, but you'll understand where I'm going with this here. Now, as of a couple of years ago, the Cowboys, of course, were the most valuable team in the league. now 6, 8, 10 billion, whatever the hell it is. And the Bills were on the other end of the spectrum at just over a couple of $1 billion. Imagine that. Anyway, why the big disparity between the league's most valuable teams? Let's get to that. Look, to get to that answer, we checked out sports-king.com. They gave a pretty good explanation here. In fact, to get that answer, we need to first look at how the NFL's owners divvy up their revenues. First off, there are national revenues and local revenues, so understand that. So from 2023 to 2032, the NFL will collect the following amounts from their media partners. ABC and ESPN, basically Disney, $27.2 billion. From Fox, the NFL will get $25.2 billion. CBS will pay $23.6 billion. NBC will pay $22.6 billion. And Amazon will pay $13.2 billion to the National Football League. Now, divide that number, or those numbers, by 10, of course, for the number of years, and you'll have $11.18 billion per year, which is the amount that the 32 NFL teams receive before the season even starts. Can you say, "Show me the money"? Oh, yeah. Other national revenue. Those sources include NFL Sunday Ticket Deal with DirecTV, the NFL Network, merchandise sold through NFL.com, and more. So let's take a look at those. Home team receives 60% of the ticket sales. That's why we talked about the attendance. So it's a 60-40 split. So Jerry Jones, of course, doesn't really like it because, like, well, why should I have to pay money to the visiting team? Well, get over it, buddy. I mean, he's got the most money, whatever the case. But now the rest of the local revenues, because that's the local revenues as far as the gate goes, right? That's the ticket sales. The local revenues, however, go straight into the pockets of the team without having to do a split. So those teams that are drawing the most, like in New York or in Dallas or whatnot, they get the actual concession sales, the stadium merchandise sales, the luxury box sales. That's why we have so many boxes. They don't have to split the boxes, only the regular ticket sales. That's why it almost seems like half of the stadium is behind glass. Okay, so also stadium sponsorships, stadium naming rights, and of course, parking. So there's a lot of local revenue that goes to the local team. So when we looked at the NFL scoreboard of these teams, we say, well, okay, 70,000 attended. So over in Baltimore, so all the ticket sales themselves outside of the boxes, well, they got to do a split. Everything behind the glass, all the concession, all the other goes to the Ravens. And so we look at the Browns and the Raiders, 62,000. So the Raiders game and the Bears game have the least amount of people. It's the Bears and Rams that have the least at 59,000. But when you look at the Packers in Green Bay, 78,000 people attended that Vikings-Packers game. Green Bay's making a bunch of money off of that game. In the same light that the New York Jets are making a bunch of money by playing the Denver Broncos. And the Panthers, although they stink, they drew 77,000 people to play against the Bengals. So now you look at that money, you say, oh, now I kind of get it. I mean, look, the Cowboys make hundreds of millions of dollars per year from stadium sponsorship, naming rights, etc. And their stadium is making money left, right, and center. They're basically a money-making machine, which is why the Cowboys are the most valuable franchise. In fact, just a few years ago, going back to those numbers, not the current numbers, the Cowboys made nearly $300 million in net operating income from $800 million in revenues. That's a really, really good clip. That's a strong clip. We're talking almost 40% here. And the Buffalo Bills, on the other hand, made a fraction of that amount. So a favorable stadium deal, and of course, and those super popular teams, such as the Cowboys, are worth bunches and bunches of money. So that's how all the money flows of this. And now you see why certain owners have more power. And this is why when you look at the standings, you say, okay, well, is it good for football if the Cowboys are good, being the most expensive franchise if you want to sell the team? Well, they're 2-2 right now behind the Washington Commanders. with Jaden Daniels. I got to tell you, I was a doubter when this kid came into the league, but he's pretty damn good. The Eagles somehow are 2-2. The Giants are 1-3. In the NFC South, it's the Buccaneers at 3-1. The Falcons and Saints both at 2-2. The Panthers, the lowly Panthers, at 1-3. Over in the West, the Seahawks remain undefeated at 3-0. The 49ers 2-2. The Cardinals and the Rams bringing up the rear at 1-3 apiece. And in the NFC North, it is the Bears and Packers both 2-2. The Lions at 2-1. The Vikings undefeated at 4-0. Over the AFC, of course, it's the Kansas City Referees, better yet the Kansas City Chiefs, 4-0. And the balance of the division is 2-2 with the Chargers, Broncos, and Raiders. And of course, in the AFC East, it's Buffalo at 3-1. The Jets at 2-2. Miami and New England, each with one win. AFC South has Houston 3-1. The Colts 2-2. Tennessee and Jacksonville are winless. And Pittsburgh somehow is 3-1, while the Ravens 2-2. The Browns and Bengals at 1-3. Is it good for football if both New York teams are in the toilet? Probably not, because of all the TV money. Now, the New York Giants are in last place. And, of course, the New York Jets, well, they're in second place. So, is it good in America's number one TV market to have those teams in first place? Yeah, technically it is. Over in the AFC, we think about the Chargers, who are a quality club, but they're kind of sputtering about in second place at 2-2, the number 2 rated TV market in America. Meanwhile, the lowly Rams are in last place at 1-3. The number 3 TV market in America is Chicago. And the Bears have 2 wins. 1 win was by the defense. 1 was over by the offense. And the Bears' offense did beat the lowly Rams. And the defense, well, that was a different situation entirely. So the number 4 market is doing very well. That would be the Houston Texans. Houston is the 4th largest TV market in America. You see where we're going with this, folks. If the teams with the lower markets, the third level cities, the tertiary level cities, such as Jacksonville, they're in the tank. Well, it doesn't really hurt the NFL too much if those teams, being the smaller market teams, are in last place or near. Even Tennessee, because Tennessee and Jacksonville, you're talking Nashville. It's a good market. It's not a great market. It's an up-and-coming market as far as economics and real estate, but it's not a primary city like New York, Chicago, LA, San Francisco, Miami, Houston, etc., or Dallas. So, again, it doesn't hurt so much to have them fighting for last place. And the same thing goes for Carolina with Charlotte. Charlotte is not a primary first-level city, but it certainly would help Washington, D.C., and, of course, to have the Commanders in first place. So there's a quick economic breakdown of what the league looks like and what the finances look like in the National Football League. So, folks, oh, by the way, in case you didn't know, Tom Brady was actually considering signing back with the Chicago Bears in 2020, but ultimately ended up signing, of course, with the Buccaneers based on 18 other factors. But the Bears were absolutely in the running. Who knew that one? Tom Brady revealed it on television. All right, folks, that's going to do it for the circus today. I'm your Ringmaster Sal. We'll see you next time at about 23 hours on your favorite station right here. Until then, so long, everyone.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.